Welcome to Trenchometry, where we discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game of football, the offensive line. And remember, when you master the trenches, you win the war. Our guest today was a standout offensive lineman at Naples High School. As a 3-year starter, he would lead the team to a Florida high school state championship, playing in the title game with a broken ankle, which eventually needed surgical repair. He would be highly recruited as he came out of Naples High School his senior year. As the number 2 offensive line recruit in the country for the class of 2009, he was named All-American senior year and was recruited by Coach Steve Adazio and Urban Meyer to Gainesville. He would join the Gators the season after their national championship run. In the OL room that spring, he would join a number of standout offensive linemen. He moved over to the dark side of the ball briefly in his college career. He suffered a season-ending injury, which would essentially end his playing career. Now he helps run a local legend called the Island Gypsy down by Marco Island, Florida, with another massive brother that was a standout offensive lineman on the college ranks. Today, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nick Alajajian to the podcast as we get a chance to talk all things offensive line with him. He was a phenomenal player. I remember Coach Trickett from Florida State used to call you the crazy Armenian, and he was in love with you, and you broke his heart when you chose the Gators over the Seminoles. But business is business. You got to do what you got to do. So welcome, Nick. So glad you're here today. Excited to have you.
Thanks for having me, Coach. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Appreciate you.
I remember back to your high school career, and you were passionate about putting people on the ground. A number of games, we would record the pancake blocks, and those pancake blocks required you to put somebody on the ground without any help. If they touched anybody else on the offensive line that was wearing the same color jersey as you, it didn't count. And that could have just been tapping them on the way down. So many of those 10 or 12 pancake or eagle blocks, as we call them, games probably could have been 15 or 16 had you not pushed them into somebody else on the way down to the ground. So what was your mindset as you went out on that field? What was your mindset about approaching knocking people onto the ground?
Well, playing for yourself, the trench doctor, Coach Horn. At Naples High, we pride ourselves on running the football. My mentality was I didn't even think about the whistle. I was just trying to get him on the ground. If I got him on the ground, my job's done. So the faster I got him on the ground, the faster I could just relax and go back to the huddle for the next play. I never even listened for the whistle. I would hit guys and try to run through them. We used to hit that 5-man sled. We used to just run our feet. Playing for Naples High, it's literally the battle in the trenches. You knew it going into the game. You know it. Everyone knows it. Everyone in the country knows Naples High runs the football. Our mentality, our whole offensive line when we were there playing for you was play through the whistle. We didn't give a shit. We didn't care about the whistle at all. We would just run our feet until we either flipped the sled or flipped a human being. It didn't matter.
It's true. Many sleds were flipped and had to be right-sided up in order to get back into the next segment of practice. That's true. I forgot about that. Thanks for all that. That's probably why I have a bad back now, lifting those sleds back over the other way. So what was it about?
We just flipped it so we didn't have to. It was really easy. It's like we used to look at each other like, all right, we're going to flip it, right? All right, let's go. And we used to just flip it.
That is a phenomenal memory for me. Okay, so what was it about your game you think that got the attention and grabbed the attention of most of the offensive line coaches in the country, most of the big time programs in the country?
And to be honest, like I said, I was just lucky and blessed to play for you and Coach Kramer and that offense because it really showcased that dog in me and that nastiness. Because like I said, we ran the football. There was no question about that. Just the showcasing of me finishing blocks and you guys giving me the ability to put film out there like that just showed people. And of course, shout out to Sam Dollar because I was the strongest, biggest guy in Southwest Florida, So wow. It was a combination of everything and me just being at the right place at the right time with you guys and being able to showcase just that nastiness and that want. Like you said, my brother, I came behind my brother Joe, who was a phenomenal player. I still say to this day, he's probably better than me. I was just a little bit taller. Yeah. That's how it goes in college football. So to me, it was just you guys putting me in the right place to showcase what I can do through just the grit and the dog and the nastiness in me, to be honest.
It's funny you mentioned that. Coach Bratton was one of our previous guests. I asked him, what is it when you go on a recruiting show? What are you looking for? And he said, of course, the size. Let's not overlook the size. Size is a big factor in all this. But his first thing that he looks for was the mentality to play the offensive line. And you mentioned that as far as what got you recognized and was something that was important to be seen on film and something you displayed very readily on film. So that kind of echoes what he's saying. You had that mentality and you showed it. And it's funny that you mentioned how aggressive you were. That came out on film. Your domination of people, and it didn't matter. You played well against good people. You played well against bad people. You played good against you played good against big guys, against small. You played good against small guys. It didn't matter. You had like kind of a level, and you would turn the performance and the effort on, and that's what was your performance. You had an on button and an off button, and there was no off until after the game. That's for sure. I was fortunate enough to get up there to Florida for a couple practices you guys had. Got a chance to sit in your offensive line room there with Coach Adazio. He demonstrated an acute ability to be aggressive as well, and really pull that out of you guys at that next level. He was brutal on you guys in the meeting room. I remember one particular meeting I was sitting in. He came out and he opened the door. I don't know if you remember this or not, but he opened up the door and you guys had a bunch of mottos and sayings like hardest working group, never going to quit, or whatever it was on the door. I remember him coming in and telling the GA, I want all this scraped off the door by the next meeting because this room is none of this. I kind of sat back and my eyes got big, and I understand what he wants out of his guys.
It's 100%. Like I was going to say, my mentality in high school, how I could turn it on and off was an attest to you guys, how well you guys coached us and got us ready to play and had us in that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
From going from Naples High to Florida, Naples High at that time was just a little mini college program. It's
Yeah.
literally the same thing. I was so ready for the college aspect of it. Of we're here to win, we're here to work, and we're here to win, right? And like so, that
Yeah.
was an easy transition for me. And then especially going to Adazio, I mean, I love that guy. You know what I mean? He gets you ready to play. He makes you want to play for him. Every Saturday morning when we're eating breakfast before the games, he used to come out and they used to get him hyped and they called it Vitamin Dazio. So he would come out, I mean, just and yelling, I mean, just getting us ready. Coach, we're waiting for our egg. You know what I mean? Like, can we
Yeah.
wake up first? He is ready. He gets you ready to go. He makes
Yeah.
you want to play hard. You'll talk to Mike and Marquise Pouncey and they'll tell you about him too. But
Yeah.
he's one of a kind. He's one of those guys who you would run in a foxhole, you would run in the dark alley with him because you want to be there for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'll be there for you. As long as you do right, you give effort, you try your hardest, he's gonna have your back. I remember a couple times, I've getting in trouble a few times, and then Urban Meyer, we were at practice one time, and I was running ones and twos, right? 'Cause Mike didn't want to practice that day or something, you know what I mean? So I had to
Mm-hmm.
run one, twos. I was running center, and I had a few bad snaps in a row, and Urban Meyer called the whole team up, circled the whole team, called me out in front of the whole team, and Adazio stepped in, told him to chill out, told him to calm down in front of everyone. So, like, if you go to war for him
Mm-hmm.
and you show that you're putting the effort in, he'd go to war for you. And that's the mentality that he put
Yeah.
into his players. It's like, we're in this together. This is our room, right? We take care of our room. As long as we take care of each other, we'll be okay. But going from the offensive line room that I went into, but there's going to be potentially 2 Hall of Famers in that room.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Between Marquise and Marcus Gilbert, I mean, there were some studs in there. And
Yeah.
Adazio, the respect of each and every one of them. It
Mm-hmm.
was, I mean, like when you get to that level, you see some big time guys who sometimes don't want to hear what you have to say or anything like that. That was not the case. They were all ears, pencils and paper. Every time the man talked, they had respect for him. They listened to him, and they cared about
Mm-hmm.
what he had to say.
And I mean, that was from top to bottom. Like, that was Coach Meyer. That was his, you're either going to do it or you're going to get out of the way and let somebody else is going to do it. And he kind of ran his whole program that way. Of course, having Tebow in there and letting him set the pace on offense, he was a competitive dude that, he didn't, despite what you may think about Tim Tebow, he didn't take anything lightly. He was competing nonstop, like it was nonstop. So from the quarterback, the head coach, all the way down to the first lineman, second, third, fourth string lineman, it was the same thing, it was neat to see that and have a glimpse behind the curtain there a little bit.
Next, it was always the next man up. It didn't matter who was the string or the second string. You're at the University of Florida. It doesn't matter. Whoever's in the game, you're going to play up to that University of Florida Gator standard. So that was the mentality.
And while you were at Florida, that's when you you guys were kind of at the heyday. As you got there, you guys kind of came down off the pinnacle a little bit at the beginning of your career. You guys had a SEC championship game appearance, went down to the bowl in New Orleans or whichever one they called that at the time. I don't know, who knows what it was now, the Sugar Bowl or whatever it was. And so you had some big time bowl game appearances, and then that kind of passed the torch over to Alabama, and Coach Saban era kind of came in while you were there. You guys, that was some big time SEC football. So pick one or two skills that Coach Adazio and Coach Meyer were trying to get their offensive linemen that they prided themselves on. What was it like? If there was one big thing when you came off the bus that they wanted you when you walked into that stadium, what was the one big thing? We're going to do this no matter what happens. We're going to do this every week.
Technique wise, mostly it was a mentality thing. I mean, offensive linemen flew in the first class. Offensive lineman ate first. Like it was a mentality. You are the most important people here. We go. If you go, we go. It's the same thing at Naples High, right? It's probably the same thing. I didn't make it to the league. I wasn't fortunate enough, but I'm sure it's the same song. Win the battle in the trenches, right? So it was first and foremost, it was a mentality. You guys are the biggest, baddest mother truckers on this team, and we're counting on you to get off this bus and be ready to go. And again, to kind of backtrack here is, the best teams that I was on, we really didn't need the coaches because the players, even going back to Naples High, remember we had the team meeting in the weight room and we didn't want you guys in there because we needed some stuff. We needed to handle some stuff without you guys being there. Some stuff needed to be said without you guys being there, right? Same thing in college. Your teammate would hold you more accountable than almost your coach would because you didn't want to let your teammate down. And it would be vice versa. It's, competitive greatness, competitive excellence is what it was. So the first and foremost was the mentality. Like, you are the offensive defensive line. You have to be ready to play. And then second, technique wise, bend, base, and balance. The 3 Bs. Bend, base, and balance. Very, in my opinion, very overlooked. Even you used to get on me at Naples High and say, "Hey man, stretch your ankles." Because I'd always be up on my toe. Every time I get down on my stance, I'll be on my toes. So it was always an uphill battle for me, the flexibility part of it, which is another reason I think Joe was better than me. Joe was way better natural bender than I was. I'm a little more lanky and not as flexible as he was, so I had to work at it. I had to acknowledge my weakness, which was my bend and my balance and my base, and I had to work on it every single day. So to me, that is a thing that's very overlooked on the offensive line.
Was there one specific thing or a technique or drill that Coach Adazio would do to help with the balance for the base aspect of it?
The bend and the balance. And so he would have you, shoot up, and then, he would put a resistance band on you and pull you back and forth, and that helped you stay on it. And I had a hard time keeping the weight on my front foot when I would be in pass pro. So guys would kill me on the inside every time. Just, coming from Naples High, we threw the ball every once in a while. I'll do it to the tight end every now and then. So that's something I really had to work on. So to me, being able to bend and then keep my balance was something I really had to really work on. So to me, it was resistance training, snapping up, and someone trying to pull me forward and move me side to side. So a big thing for me was resistance and training.
Got it. If I would kind of play this out a little bit, the fact of the balance and the resistance aspect of it is trying to keep that weight on the inside balls of your feet. And if you're not real flexible, it's hard to get that weight on the inside balls of feet where your balance is best, where you can keep your centers of gravity in between your knees and be able to withstand and move and have power and push off that inside foot if you got a kick set, or push off that outside foot if you're power stepping back in if somebody's trying to cross your face. And so keeping that weight on that inside foot and the training and the resistance bands are going to help overemphasize you pushing off, almost knock-kneed, if you will, where you keep your knees kind of bent and kind of touching towards one another to kind of push that weight out on the balls of your feet and kind of give you that balance. Those resistance bands pulling you forward or pulling you left, right, back, forward. Those are good drills to have, and you could do that. You could do that in your backyard, really. If you put in a resistance band around a tree or a fence post or something, you could do that yourself. You don't even really need a partner or anybody holding on to that. If you're desperate enough to get out and be a great offensive lineman, that's something you could do on your own.
100%. And I was more of a run the ball guy, so I'm weird just going downhill and hitting people in the mouth. I had feet. People always said I had pretty quick feet on the ladders. So to me, it wasn't getting out and kicking out of my set. I was kicking so much that there was no weight on my front foot. I would be swaying back like this, and the dudes would just go inside every time. So I was getting waxed, and
Yeah.
then so that took a lot from me, and the flexibility only helped me with that along the way.
Mhm.
So that would probably be the biggest thing for me.
Did you guys in the off season when you're in the weight room, were you doing any offensive line specific stuff that would have helped with the base or the balance, or was it all just powerlifting and agilities? What was that off season training regime like?
Yeah, a lot of weights, a lot of running, a lot of things like mat drills, which
Mhm.
are just crazy workouts. I mean, you see a little bit on that Netflix documentary that cover a little bit of it, but that doesn't do it justice because that it's the craziest workout you'll ever see, you'll ever be a
Mhm.
part of. That's the kind of stuff we did in summer. So it wasn't really position driven so much. It was more so let's get big, swole, and get ready for season. So in the summertime, it wasn't so much position driven. Once you got closer to the season, then you broke off and did position group things and did position drills and all the normal things that you do:
Mhm.
kick sets, back to back, zigzag, resistance, shoulder, leg drive, weight on your inside foot, all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
the mat drill was probably the craziest thing that I've ever been a part of. And I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody, they'll tell you that too at Florida. It's a crazy, crazy, high intense workout at 5:50 in the morning. Starts at 5:50 in the morning. There's 6 different stations. It's the closest thing to military camp, I'm sure. I've never been, but it's probably the closest thing to it. One of the stations is a
Mhm.
10 by 10 mat, 2 lines. They blow the first whistle. First guy jumps on the mat, face down on their stomach. Second whistle, the second guy is going to jump on your back, and you got to get to the other side of the mat. And there's no rules. That's it. So I've seen dudes get choked out, eyes rolled back in their head. I've seen fist fights. You see it all. But there's a
Yeah.
winner and there's a loser, and you don't want to be the
Mhm.
loser. So you see some crazy stuff. And that was that dog thing that
Yeah.
they wanted to put in that mentality, that grit. Nothing's gonna stop us, And then it was cool. Even if you got in a fist fight, I mean, full blood fist fight, bloody noses, everything, you still hug it out at the end and you'd be best friends and you go to
Yeah.
class and be cool. 'Cause that's just how it was. It was just the mentality that we had at Florida. That was it was something crazy. It's like they touch on it a little bit in the Netflix documentary, but I'm telling you, it doesn't do it justice. And you know who was in charge of all that is the same strength and conditioning coach that's still at Ohio State right now, Coach
Okay.
Mickey Marotti.
Mhm.
And he won all those titles with Florida, and won all the titles with Urban Meyer at Ohio State. And I'm telling you, he's the hidden piece to the puzzle behind all
Yeah.
these national championships. I bet he has probably 6 or 7 national championships now.
Yeah, it's like a fight or flight, survivor mode, do whatever it takes to stay alive aspect, which is the story about you go see the old sage guy for wisdom and you say, I want success. Can you teach me how to be successful? And he takes you out in the middle of the pond and he pushes your head underneath the water. You're about darn near ready to drown. You come up, what are you doing? He said, did you want to breathe? You say, yeah. He goes, how bad did you want to breathe? Well, I was going to die. He goes, until you want success that bad, you're not going to be successful. You want to have success the same amount that you want that oxygen. And until you do that, you're not going to be successful. And that you're pushing some heads underwater in those drills. Then
100%.
people, if you're
100%.
imagining, you're trying to imagine what it looks like, and it's worse than what you think. Whatever you envision, it's worse. It's more intense. It's more physical. It's more difficult. It's more everything than what you actually envision it being.
Yeah,
And
it's about being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right?
oh
That's
yeah,
that's
that's
it. And that was a big thing at Florida, It's and just to touch on that, my advice: if you're ever stuck in a drill like that, Gator roll and throw a lot of elbows. You're great for that profit.
you said something brilliant there. It's being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. I think as a coach, as an offensive line coach, I was trying to do that. My Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday individual practices were no joke. I was trying to stress you guys as much as I possibly could so that Friday you're like, this ain't nothing but a thing. Tuesday sucks more than this. I think your group was the first one we kind of did turbo sleds with, which is that I don't know if anybody's ever done this before. I've never really seen this done, and I'm not claiming to have, invented this or anything, but a turbo sled is where you do a sled routine. We had a certain drawn out sled routine, but we would do it no huddle. So you would drive the sled, sprint 10 yards, come back, get in your stance. I'd call a play, drive the sled 10 yards, sprint, drive it 5 yards, sprint 10, sprint back, and we did probably I don't know, 6 or 8 plays like that, and then you would rest while the second team guys would do it, and then you were back up and you did probably 12 to 16 reps in no huddle mode. I know that would gas you guys in a heartbeat, but I felt better doing that knowing you were gassed on Tuesday than Friday for sure.
Well, I mean, you win the game on Tuesdays. The same thing in college. We call it Bloody Tuesday because
Mhm.
I mean that's when you really get that hard work in and that hard practice in. But I'm not kidding you, coach. Playing offensive line was probably at Naples High was the best thing that's ever happened in my life. I
Mhm.
mean, playing for you and being ready because, like you said, we did have the hardest individual when we were there. The linebackers can try to say they had the hardest individual. That's bullshit. We did. The offensive line had the hardest practice at Naples High. It wasn't even a question. The defensive line just sit over there and drink water all day. We all know that, and that's cool. And that's why we used to whoop them up. The mentality was already in me by the time I got to Florida. I,
Yeah.
I knew how to work hard. Coming these other kids that came from different high schools, it's like, hey, you guys like losing? You guys are okay with losing? Like, you know what I mean? By the time
Yeah.
you get to where you're at, everyone's the best of the best, right?
Mhm.
So in the offensive line room, everyone would talk junk. Oh, my high school beat your high school, right? Oh, my high school beat your high school. Coach, I'm not lying. I wouldn't even have to say anything. Adazio would tell them, hey, Nick's high school is real.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. When kids from North Carolina, Adazio would be like, you're crazy. Nick's high school will work you guys. And the
Yeah.
only ones that he said would be a good game was me and Mike and Marquise, Lakeland. Be us and Lakeland.
Yeah,
That's what
like
he said. Other guys just shut up because the program that you guys had and what you instilled in us at that age, it's just unmatched. I can't even put words onto it because,
yeah,
like I said,
pretty
it's the
cool.
best thing that ever happened in my life was playing offensive line for you at Naples High. It made me who I am today. My
Mhm.
mentality, man, I am, how I work and my job, how I was at college, everything. It set me up better than I could ever imagine.
One of the things when you got to Florida, and I'm sure you could pick something at Naples High also as far as things that were unnecessary or overhyped, however you want to call it, right? Whatever the overemphasized. Is there anything that stands out in your mind as something you spent way too much time doing that didn't really pay off on the field for you? Like any particular drill where you're like, man, I'm so sick and tired of doing this drill because it doesn't, I'm not seeing it translate. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
That sticks out. I mean, not really, to be honest. That sticks out of my mind. I mean, everything we did, I think, served a purpose. I mean, I hate running ones in the morning.
Yeah. That's hard to it's hard to connect those dots between the pain of that and the payoff. But when it's the fourth quarter and you got a 12 play drive to finish out a state championship game, you're glad you were doing those things. That's for sure. Okay,
You're
what about what is one drill that you have to do? You have to do no matter what. If thunder's coming, weather's coming, you got to get this drill in. Is there one thing that sticks out in your mind as the most vital of all things to get done each day?
Mine probably would be the the resistant leg drive drill to
Okay.
where you have weight on the inside of your feet and your shoulders down, leaning like you're run blocking, and there's a guy in front of you resisting you, and
Hmm.
just getting that work in, getting those all those muscles fired up every day, getting in that natural position of ankle
Yeah.
bend, which was big for me, right? The weight on the inside of your foot, that balance, the bend, the base, getting that. That's probably one of the best drills that you can do, especially for run blocking. But I think
Yeah.
just overall for an offensive lineman, it's a great drill to always keep on
I
your daily routine.
I think the big advantage of that is it's teaching you how to transition from push the points of contact with the ground that you have your feet and actually exerting
Mhm.
force on those feet and transferring the force from your feet in the ground, the contact where your feet in the ground are, up through your legs, up through your core, out your arms and into the opponent and actually creating space. Because we've had guys that came through Naples High School. I'm sure there were guys at Florida too that were big, strong dudes, but they couldn't push the guy 5 inches the other way. They could push all they want, run their feet, and they weren't going to move that dude no matter what. They just couldn't transfer the power and energy from their feet through their body, out their arms into the opponent to make them actually move. And I think that's a good drill that you mentioned to kind of help teach, particularly young guys. Like think like a Pop Warner team. You got a bunch of linemen. They don't. It's hard. You got to learn how to move people out of the way, push somebody where they don't want to go. It's an unnatural skill. And in order to do that, you got to learn that energy transfer from your body to the other body to make sure that other body is going somewhere. And that sounds to me like that would be a really good drill for young guys to do, to develop that skill set of actually pushing somebody and making them go where you want them to go. That's a good thought there.
Balance.
Favorite memory?
And just to touch on that,
Yeah.
playing offensive line, your total job description is moving another human being in the total opposite
Mhm.
direction that they want to go. Just
Yep.
that's period, point blank, right? And just to touch on the whole defensive line thing too, they celebrate when they get a sack, right? I mean, if you get 10 sacks in a year, you're balling, right?
Mhm.
So you won 10 plays, and I won all the other 500 plays during the year. So there is a very undervalued thing to playing the offensive line, but like it takes a certain breed, like you said. It takes a definitely certain kind of breed. What'd you ask me about a memory at Florida? Is that what
Yeah.
you're
So what's your
asking?
top favorite memory or two memories of your time at Florida? Because you were there for some good ones.
Man, I got a lot of stories, but I mean, my favorite, most memorable one, without crying, is probably the time I got to start at left tackle and we played Ohio State in the Tax Slayer Bowl, and my mom was there.
Okay.
And I got to hug my mom, so I'm not gonna cry. But yeah, that was probably my favorite time,
Yeah.
was seeing her there, seeing my mom, and that made me very happy and made it all worth it. And that was actually the last game I played in, and that was
Yeah. Because you got
that was
hurt in the
right.
spring. Was the spring when you got
Yeah,
hurt? Yeah.
yeah. So I was juiced up to be starting the next year, and Carlos Hyde was on the other sideline, so it was kind of good
Okay.
to stick it to him over there because we beat him that game too.
Yeah. And
And
Carlos was
it
your
was my
running back, our running back.
Yeah, at Naples. But yeah, that was cool. I got to start at left tackle, which I've never done before. I did okay. Could have played better, but and then like some cool stories, man. To be honest, one of my favorite stories was when Brandon Spikes got on Tim Tebow in the locker room against Mississippi State. It's kind of one of those we hold each other accountable stories, which was
Yeah.
pretty cool to experience that. Two greats like that. I mean, just being
Yeah.
surrounded by great. Now that I look back on it, I mean, it's Joe Hayden, Brandon Spikes, Mike Marquise Pouncey, Tim Tebow. I mean, Deontay Thompson. I mean, there's just legends after legends. And just to see ironing, sharpening iron and
Mhm.
being in the middle of it, and just Brandon Spikes going at Tim Tebow, telling him he needs to step his up because he just threw a pick before halftime. Just being in there and being a fly on the wall at that moment was really kind of like, damn, this is the big leagues kind of thing. So that was
Yeah.
my freshman year.
How did Tim respond to that? Did he take it and respond to the call?
Yeah, I mean there was a little button heads, there was a little struggle going on, but we ended up going out and winning the game. So he definitely listened and it worked.
And that's
It
something
was
that's
it
something to be
was
said there
definitely
too. I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, and you're telling him what to do, and he's not playing good enough, and he's the guy out there making promises. That's on a, his promise is on a statue out in front of the swamp now. Like that was a big deal. So you're going to call that guy out, and for that guy to be humble enough to recognize that, all right, maybe I do have some room for improvement. Maybe I can do better. That is a phenomenal aspect, especially if there's a lot of guys out there that are studs. You approaching your game and how you perform with a humbleness about you, so that when somebody does call you out, you step back and say, all right, does this person have something? Are they actually telling me something that's constructive, or are they just picking at me and I can, glean from what I can and move on? But sometimes they are right. Maybe I did make a bad decision. Maybe I do need to focus more. Maybe I do need to make a priority of better preparation. And that's good to hear that he did that, because, and Tim's a pretty high profile guy, and he's got a lot of things going, and he's a hero to many and a role model to many. And most of the time you don't hear about him messing up or screwing up. So it's good, a learning point to hear that he was held accountable and he responded.
And that goes back to what I was saying, the best teams, we held each other accountable. We didn't really need the
Mhm.
coaches, you know what I mean? They didn't care if Tim Tebow, you want to talk about superstars. He was the top. He couldn't even go to class because
Yeah.
he was too popular. Kids wouldn't pay attention. They'd be passing out. They'd fall out. They'd be running up to him all. So he literally couldn't even go to school. He had to go to online school. They used to sneak him out of practice. So they had like a
Yeah.
secret way to take him out in the back because there'd be people waiting outside for him. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen people chasing his car down the street when he was leaving the locker room. But that didn't matter, right? It didn't matter because in the locker room, it's us, right? We're all we got. This is it, right? So for Brandon Spikes, who isn't any chump himself. He's going to be at least in the Florida Hall of Fame. He's on the
Mhm.
coaching staff up there now, but he didn't care who. He doesn't care if it's Tim Tebow or whoever it was. You're
Yeah.
hurting the team right now. You need to play better, right? What you're doing is not good enough. You need to do better. And probably the craziest thing is going from Naples High and then going to Florida and having to block Carlos Dunlap every day
Mm,
because
that sounds like
Choose
fun.
choose go yeah, it's so he was 6, I think he's like 6'7". I don't even know how much he weighed, but and then he ran like a 4.7 40. Um, so that was pretty fun because, choose the second string always goes against the first string,
Yeah.
right? Second team offense, first string defense. So every day my freshman year, I had to block Carlos Dunlap and then I had to down block and combo up to Brandon Spikes. So that
Oh,
was probably that's one of my favorite memories, going from Naples High and being Mr. All American, whatever, thinking you're somebody, and then going up against them. It was a good humbling experience for sure when I first got there.
I was thinking back to you said your favorite memories is seeing your mom in the Taxslayer Bowl, which was at the Citrus Bowl, if I remember correctly, right? Wasn't that there in Orlando where you guys played that game?
No, it was in Jackson. It was in
Oh, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Okay. Okay. Never mind then. Because I remember I have a distinct memory of you, a picture of you running out of the tunnel for the state championship game at the Citrus Bowl, looking up at your mom, throwing her the I love you up as you ran out on the field, which is your mom's been a big motivator to you, and feeding you was a high order. My gosh, she must have been cooking for hours and hours and hours with you and your brothers running around the house. So she deserves a medal for being able to supply enough food to keep you guys as big as you were and as strong and as thick as you guys were. She must have been working overtime in that kitchen.
We ate a lot of pasta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We ate a lot of
And,
pasta.
and those double doozies, those cookies that have all the icing shoved in the middle between them. Goodness.
Exactly. You know about it.
All right. So as we wrap up here, a lot of fond memories and a lot of funny memories, and you had some characters you played with in high school, and you had some characters you played with in college. Is there any one guy or two guys that stick out as being the biggest characters that no matter you knew if you were sitting next to this guy in a meeting or sitting next to him on a bus or sitting in a cafeteria with him or in a class or whatever, you knew whatever was going to happen, there was going to be something funny or something off the wall or out of left field coming out of this guy's mouth. Was there anybody that fits that bill and sticks out in your mind?
I would probably say Marcus Gilbert. Marcus Gilbert was
Oh,
a pretty funny guy. I mean, he was a clown. He loved to have a good time. So she put it that way. So if
yeah.
you were trying to have a good time, you were hanging out with Marcus Gilbert. So he was always probably the life of the party. Besides Mike and Marquise, Mike and Marquise were probably they're the most influential people in my life through my college career. Um,
Mhm.
we're still best friends to this day. They were definitely one of a kind. They changed the position of the offensive line. To be honest, they kind of made it into what it is today. It's no longer big sloppy fat guys who can't move. It's athletic guys who really want to play offensive line. That's what they're here to do. So I would say between Mike and Marquise and Marcus Gilbert, I mean, it was always a good time and we were always laughing. I mean, and they would have a Dazio cracking up. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the best part is when you can kind of soften up your coach and have him sit back and laugh with you. And they were so good at doing that. You know what I mean? Like even if he was in a terrible mood, somehow Mike and Marquise and Marcus could make it laugh. Like it was just them. They were always there to help keep the room up, to keep the vibes up. And they were first rounders. They knew they were going first round. I knew when I was going there that they were going first round. I knew I was gonna have to sit
Mhm.
behind them. And it was just the way Mike and Marquise operate, you can see why they're gonna be in the Hall of Fame. And just how they approach the game and how it just took me to the next level as soon as I got
Mhm.
there. It made me realize how to be a man, how to take care of your shit, how to work hard, and just being yourself, and being
Yeah.
genuine and not trying to be more than what you need to be, definitely not what less than what you should be. Is
Yeah.
every day you show up, every day you work hard. And it's not for anyone but yourself, and you do that every single day and stay who you are, then you're gonna be all right.
Yeah. I think back to that meeting I was in there with you guys in Adazio and I think it was Gilbert that Adazio pointed to. You guys had apparently not performed very well the day before I got there. And this was like the pre-practice meeting. And I was sitting in there kind of just out of the way listening. He was kind enough to let me sit in his meeting. And I think if I remember correctly, there was a recruit or two in there as well listening to these meetings. And he came in, and after he told the GA to scrape everything off the door, it didn't belong there. He then went down and just called out every single person. And I believe, if I remember correctly, he pointed at Gilbert and told Gilbert, you, and I quote this is Coach Adazio, Mr. Gilbert, so don't be upset with me if you hear this someday. He said, you were an abortion of a recruiting mistake. And it was everything I could do not to burst out laughing in that room, because he was a pretty darn freaking good college lineman at that point in his life. And so for him to say that made me laugh, because he must have not done very well at all the day before. But when he said that, that was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard. He was calling him out. He wanted him to perform better and step up to the challenge for sure.
I've heard some, let's just say, hurtful things said in that meeting room before.
Hurtful
But you
things.
gotta leave your pride and your ego at the door, man. You gotta leave it there. And that's the best thing. They coach you hard, That's what Coach Daz would do. He would coach you hard as heck, but then he would love him just as hard.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That's why people love to play for him.
I was wondering if you were going to mention your guard from high school, Juan Friedrich, when I would turn around to do something and I'd hear this, ow, and I'd turn back around and be like, what's wrong? And you'd be like, Coach, Juan's poking Freddie in the eyes again. I don't know if you remember that, but when Nick was in school, he had a guard that would, for fun, he would just take his finger and he would poke people in the eye when they weren't paying attention, just to see how they would respond. That's how they had fun in high school. And the Naples offensive line there, poking somebody in the eye was a way to pass the time.
I wasn't even thinking about Naples High. I mean, how much time you got? We could go over all the funny characters you had there. Because I mean, Dito. Remember Dito?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Miguel De La, some jokers, man. Straight jokers. Remember, you used to do the throat chop. You used to chop people in the throat, try to collapse their esophagus. Like this is medical emergency.
Get their attention. Make sure everybody's paying attention. If you were paying attention, you got a throat chop.
Yeah. Cole used to do the tarantula. You just do like a full body Nelson.
He would jump on your back, and he was 6'7" of arms and legs. You couldn't get him off of you. You would collapse to the ground, and he wouldn't let go. Goodness gracious, good memories. Well, Nick, I am very thankful and very proud of you and your brother and everything you guys accomplished on the field for us at Naples High and on the field at the Swamp for the Florida Gators. And I've appreciated your time and commitment to being here today. And you were a great player for us. You were a great player at Florida. You've been a phenomenal man. And I'm so grateful for you being here. And I'll give you the last word here as we head out, and you can close it up with any thoughts you got.
Again, like I said, Coach, playing offensive line for you at the Naples High School, which is the greatest high school on earth. I don't care what anyone says. It was the best thing in my life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in regards to making me become a better man. And I'm just grateful to have learned from you, who is a man's man, a man of God, a man of faith, everything, leadership, positivity. I aspire to be half the man that you are, and I think I'll be okay in life. And I'm just, like I said, I'm very grateful to have gotten to be in that position with you. And I'm forever in debt to you guys for exposing me to football and teaching me how to play football, because that literally has changed the trajectory of my life and everything. And the memories that I have, to the friendships that I have to this day, I wouldn't have them if I didn't play football for you. Again, I can't thank you enough. The name title you have under here, the Trench Doctor, it's spot on, because like I said, playing the offensive line at Naples High School, when I was there with you, it was a vibe. It was a lifestyle. It was a sight to see. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it was a show every Friday night. The offensive line at Naples High was a show. And that's because of you. And that's because of what you put into us, the talks you gave to us. Remember the baby seals and killing them with clubs and Eskimos?
Oh, yeah.
Coach, I want to run through this wall right now, just thinking about it. Right? That's that turn on switch. Let's go. Let's go right now.
Yeah.
And I just can't thank you enough for being the person you are and the positive example you were in my life at such an important time, and still being there for me to this day. I can't thank you enough. One more thing.
Yeah.
So you used to just read a prayer before every practice and every game.
Yeah.
I have that same prayer tattooed on my arm to this
There we
day.
go.
Colossians
Was it?
3:22-23.
Yep.
Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for men. And you
That's
instilled
phenomenal.
that in me at a very young age, and I still preach it to this day. So again, I thank you and I love you, Coach.
All right, I love you too, Nick. Proud of you, man, and keep up the great work. You're doing a great job. And if you're near Marco Island, hit the Gypsy. It's worth every minute you spend there.
Come on down.
Well, I'm glad we got you out of the hockey rink and got you out on the football field because I think you ended up being a much better football player than you would have been a hockey player. You would have spent all your time in the penalty box. You would have never been able to get out on the ice. And I thank you for those kind words. And it was fun coaching you. And you brought everything. You gave us everything you had. And as we leave here today, just remember this: if you master the trench, you win the war. And thanks, Nick, for being our guest. And we'll see you guys on our next episode. Take care,
See you,
Nick.
Coach.
All right, bub.